Hello and welcome to this session, which is mini What Funders Want micro training for forums. This work that I'm doing is part of BVSC and the project is Impact in Action, kindly funded by City Bridge Trust. This includes a whole raft of support which is available for free to organisations up until 2022. I'm the Impact Officer, and just to show that I've got a bit of experience in the sector. I have been working for 20 years in the charity world, and in relation to this particular topic, I have the diploma in fundraising management, which is from what is now called the Chartered Institute of Fundraising. The session is a micro session and very brief introduction to an hour-long session that will be running again in 2021, sorry. And depending on when you listen to this, may be running again. So do look out for What Funders Want. And it's part of a whole series of sessions available to organisations. So do keep an eye on the training section of the BVSC website. So we're diving into something that funders often request, which is how to find out the needs in relation to your project. And in the full training, we go through this slide, which talks about what external places you can look for, what the needs are, what are the problems that you're addressing, and the internal information that you might have to evidence those needs. So all the time you're trying to build evidence. It's not just you saying it, but it's a mixture of what you're saying, maybe what the council's saying, maybe what local people are saying, a whole group, and something that's recognised maybe on a wider scale. There are lots of places to find out about this, and Inspiring Impact has got some information there on the link. In addition, I've got a link on my part of the website, and you can see how to get there on this slide. And then the council has a range of different things that where they've done research in terms of things like the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment. That's what JSNA stands for. And it's also worth contacting council staff members if you've got a particular area, for example, targeted youth work. Maybe like for you, you're working with teenagers. Maybe it's worth contacting that staff member. You might also find information out from your sector. So there may be other charities that work in similar fields, either in your area or more at a distance, but they might have some insights as to how to find out the needs in your area, needs that might be relevant to your area. And often the application form itself will give you hints. So for bigger funders or more developed funders, they may well say, we've created this fund in response to XYZ report. And if you go to XYZ report, that may have, you can just keep going because that report might have footnotes saying, well, we got our information from here. And yeah, so without getting stuck too much down a little rabbit hole, it's worth having a little nose around some of these places and to get good at skim reading probably. So moving on to training on researching needs. So if you would like to research those needs, but you just feel that you need a bit of training to get a little bit more in-depth information, then here's some information from a Superhighways mailing that they sent in December, and they've kindly allowed me to share it with you. And there's some recorded training on these sections about London's poverty profile. I would also say the indices of multiple deprivation training might be worth a look. So just depending on what your charity or community voluntary organisation is working in, just have a little look around at what's available. So one of the things that we talked about when we did the full session of training was having some documents, two main documents that you create in the background that are ready for whenever you've got to do an application. And this might be something that you do like sort of in one go before you even start doing any fundraising, but more than likely you'll have some of this information already, and you can pop it into your document or pop it in every time you do an application, update these two documents that I'm going to talk about. So the first document is the Needs Hub, and I would have a document where I just log needs in relation to the work that the charity or voluntary organisation is doing. So, for example, when I worked for Treasures, Treasures helped women coming out of prison with drug and alcohol addictions. So I would have a document where I simply dumped information about, well, what are issues relating to women in prison? What are issues relating to women coming out of prison? What are issues relating to drugs or alcohol, to reoffending rates, all of that sort of thing. You know, there are different angles that, and I could log those different needs because different groups will have done research in all of those different areas, and I can draw on that research, and then I can draw on internal research as well. So what were people saying when they talked to us about, you know, their next steps coming out of prison, the possibilities of them going back to the scenarios that put them into prison in the first place, and so on. So the document that you're creating doesn't have to be pretty. It probably have lots of links, kind of saying, oh, here, you know, in the case of the example that I'm using, it would have links off to Women in Prisons, which is an organisation. It might have links off to different, they keep calling them different names, but different statutory organisations, HMPPS, probation. It depends, the names just kept changing. But anyway, you get the idea. And then a good place to have a little look at, if you've not got a needs hub already, is to look at my useful links section of the Impact in Action bit of the website, BVSE website, which I'll put above. And then just keep it up to date. Every time you do an application, and maybe you research more needs for that application, you discover more things, just keep it up to date. And for example, it's likely that there'll be a COVID element right now if you make an application out of the need to change because of COVID, and again, Brexit, and anything else that changes over the coming months. The second key document I suggested people have up their sleeves is a fundraising hub document. So this is a table of frequently asked questions from funders, and it's just there ready so that often funders you'll sort of get into a rhythm. There's a rhythm to a lot of applications, and you kind of know what kind of questions are coming next. You know, it's always at the end they'll ask you for the attachment, for example, and that'll normally be a safeguarding document, might be your memorandum and articles, your founding documents. So you always sort of, generally you'll be repeating yourself lots of times. So why not have this document available? You'll be able to cut and paste for the most part, and just tweak it and check that it's really in line with the guidelines. You know, just don't blindly cut and paste. And some are more easy to cut and paste than others. Like some, for example, if it asks for your charity number, that's always going to be the same. Whereas other questions, you'll want to start from scratch potentially with the ideas in mind that you've put into this document. So it doesn't have to be a pretty document, and you can have multiple answers in the document. So, for example, on the coming slide, we're going to see how it might ask for your aims, and then some funders will say, tell us your aims and objectives in 50 words, and others will give you 100 words. So you might want a small version and a bigger version. And the worksheet for this is now available, and it's on the resources section of the BVSC website. And this is a copy of the first page of that. There are more pages to go. And if it's a bit daunting when you first go to it, don't worry. As you do more applications, you can just gradually fill this in as you go if you need to. If you're more of a person that wants to sit down in one sitting and sort of work through it, then that's fine. But if it's a bit daunting, I'd suggest just sort of gradually filling it in every time you do an application. Improve this document. And it's going to evolve anyway as time changes, as the applications that you're applying for maybe change in theme. Maybe mental health is popular in the funding world at one point, but then it moved on slightly to a different nuanced area. So for some parts of it, you're just going to write in where to find the information. So where it says links to other applications made, you would simply write in that link, the shared folder funding applications. It's just so that you're not digging around all the time. And also it really helps in terms of the fact that if you leave the organisation, the next person knows where to start looking. You've just got to show them this sheet and they know where to go to. Then aims, you might, as I said, you might have a short version, long version, but generally the aims of the organisation, you might want to tweak them to make sure that you're speaking the language of the funder, but generally it's going to be something that you can copy and paste more, whereas some of the other questions you may want to start from scratch, as I said. So you're very welcome to fill out some training stuff, a response form as to how you found this training. I'm trying to finish quickly.